What is the secret trust that the 1% use to protect assets for multiple generations? This is an incredibly powerful tool. And to illustrate what it is, the tale of supercharging a plan. Larry's father leaves him $2 million. During Larry's life, he gets divorced. He also gets sued after a bad car accident. When he passes away, that $2 million is gone. Nothing there for his kids, and of course, nothing there for his grandkids. Wyatt, same situation starting out. $2 million for his benefit. He also gets sued. He also gets divorced. But when he passes away, there's $6 million there from that $2 million for his kids. And when his kids pass away, that's turned into $18 million. So an $18 million difference, even though they basically live the same parallel lives. What is the difference? What are we talking about here?
So let's give it away. The Family Protection Trust. Generically, it's called a Dynasty Trust. I'll quickly mention that Bernie Sanders on his platform, this is public record, love him, hate him, whatever, this is simply a fact that Bernie felt strongly that Dynasty Trust should be outlawed because they so effectively protect assets for multiple generations from exposure to tax. So that's the introduction to talking about the topic. And Mark kind of, lives and breathes this issue. So Mark, let's explain and talk about the beauty and the power of the Dynasty Trust.
Yeah, and it's so important to understand this. When we talk about multi-generational planning, having this trust in place is often a key part of it, whether you're ultra high net worth or not. And I think that's the big point that we want to make. You do not have to be high net worth or ultra high net worth for this to be powerful. And we'll show you why. I think a lot of people have the misnomer that, if I'm not a multi-millionaire or 100 millionaire, I don't want to think about this. There is no reason why everybody shouldn't have the power of these trusts for their family. So here, instead, let's say you have 2 kids. Instead of leaving assets to your kids, you would create a family protection trust for your first child, a family protection trust for your second child. You would leave assets to the trust. You wouldn't leave them a penny. Why? 3 big reasons. So 1, divorces happen, right? Between 40 and 50% of marriages end in divorce. So there's various stats around that. And if you leave assets directly to your child, they commingle it, 50% could be lost to their ex. Creating a trust and leaving assets to the trust keeps it separate. It should not be lost in a divorce. 2, if your child is sued, if they inherit assets directly, there are no protections for that. It is fair game. If it's in one of these trusts, there's a barrier. You created a barrier to make it a lot harder for litigants to get at that money. So you're creating sort of a structure and almost an insurance policy to make it a lot harder for litigants to go after that money. 3, this is super powerful. When your child passes away, the assets in that trust, plus the growth and the value of those assets during their life, subject to some limits, is not part of their taxable estate. So right now, you can pass $12.92 million per person to your heirs without any estate taxes. But the exemption is going to drop in the next couple of years. And who knows what the estate tax rules will be in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. By creating this trust now, you're taking a big chunk of assets, what you're leaving your kids, and it's not going to be touched by estate taxes when your kids pass away, when it goes for the benefit of your grandkids. It can save hundreds of thousands or even millions, even if you don't think of yourself as high net worth now. Think about that future growth. And you might think, well, this is all great, Mark. I love this idea, Mike and Mark. Great idea, but I don't want to tie my kids' hands. I don't want to make my life too complicated. I don't want to make their life too complicated. They can be their own trustees. They can be in charge of this trust for themselves. There's situations where they might want to step down, but you don't have to tie their hands. So they can be in charge of these trusts for themselves. So it's extraordinary peace of mind, extraordinary protection. And Mike, how long do these trusts last?
In a way, and yet the limitation is in California, they last for roughly 100 years, 2 or 3 generations. There are some states where they last forever. For a number of reasons, we usually want to base these in California, even with this modest limitation. But if you think in terms of 2 or 3 generations, I mean, that's a lot. We're talking about the grandkids and the great-grandkids. We recommend them for virtually everybody.
And this should not just be for the ultra wealthy. You do not have to be ultra high net worth for this to be valuable. If you just have a house in California, it's likely worth it. So let's just go back to that mystery really quickly. Let's unravel it. Larry, $2 million inherited, divorce lawsuit, all of it gone. Wyatt, on the other hand, $2 million divorce lawsuit turns into $6 million when he passes away, and $18 million when his kids pass away for his grandkids. The difference, Larry inherited it directly. So when he got divorced, he lost 50% of it because he commingled it. And when he was sued, there was no protection around it. He ended up losing the lawsuit, lost it all. Wyatt, on the other hand, the assets went into a family protection trust. When he was divorced, the assets were separate so that they weren't lost to his ex-spouse. When he was sued, the barrier freaked out the person suing him. They didn't go after the money, settled for less. The money stayed in his estate. It grew during his life to 6 million because he just invested it decently in the stock market. Maybe he bought a house with it, so it became 6 million. His kids were protected from divorce and lawsuits, so the money was allowed to grow during their lives. 6 million to 12 million to 18 million. The power of compound growth was able to take hold. The difference of literally starting out with not that much, it can be tens of millions over time. So we want you to be one of those families that put these into place now so your kids and grandkids really benefit from this, because we think there's going to be a big divide between the families that create these and the families that don't. Fair or not, we want you to be informed about them. So be aware. It's easy to find us. Gilfix.com, 650-493-8070. Hey, we hope you enjoyed that. Like, comment, share it with someone who could benefit from this. Stay tuned for so much more free legal educational content on the Gilfix Law YouTube channel. Subscribe. Let's be in touch.